This video is about she drove to the zoo and a rich stranger bought her coffee. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. Claire had always found solace in the gentle chaos of the zoo. The cacophony of animal calls, children's laughter, and the rustle of leaves created a sanctuary for her thoughts. Today, though, the air felt different, charged with a peculiar energy. As she parked her withered sedan beneath the wide-brimmed trees, Claire caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. A few stray strands of hair had escaped her loose bun, framing her face in a way that made her feel both unkempt and oddly free. She brushed them away, straightened her shoulders, and stepped out, inhaling the earthy scent of the zoo's gardens mixed with sweet cotton candy. Her steps were light as she approached the entrance, though a lingering doubt tugged at her heart. Was she truly ready to embrace the day? It had been 3 months since her breakup with Daniel, a relationship that had drained her emotionally, leaving echoes of insecurity in its wake. Today was supposed to be a fresh start, a day for herself. As she queued to buy her ticket, her eyes drifted to the dense foliage lining the entrance. She imagined the animals waiting to be seen, their vibrant energy a stark contrast to her own introspective mood. Lost in thought, she barely noticed when a voice broke through the chatter around her. "Excuse me, is this line moving, or have we been forgotten?" Claire turned, her gaze meeting the amused eyes of a man standing just behind her. He was tall, perhaps a few inches above 6 feet, with tousled dark hair and a warm smile that seemed to light up his entire face. Instinctively, her heart did a little flip. "It's moving, I promise," she replied, forcing a smile as she brushed a loose strand behind her ear. "Just taking my time, I guess." "Taking your time is always a good plan," he said, tilting his head slightly, as if he was sizing her up. "I am Ethan, by the way." "Claire," she said, surprised at how her name felt on her tongue, almost like a little secret shared in the open air. They chatted lightly as they moved through the line, their conversation flowing easily. Claire couldn't help but notice the way his eyes sparkled when he laughed, or how there was an unspoken charm in the way he leaned slightly toward her, as if their words created a world they alone inhabited. As they stepped into the zoo, the colorful surroundings seemed to fade into the background. "Have you been here before?" Ethan asked, glancing sideways at her. "Not in a while," Claire admitted. "I used to come here a lot as a kid. It felt like magic back then." "Magic, huh?" He quirked an eyebrow. "What is your favorite animal?" She saw for a moment, the corners of her mouth lifting as she recalled childhood afternoons. "The elephants, they read just so majestic. I loved watching them interact." Ethan nodded, his expression contemplative. "There is something beautiful about their memory, how they form bonds. It is almost poetic." "Poetic, huh?" She teased lightly, a playful glint in her eyes. "I didn't know we had a philosopher in the zoo today." He laughed, a deep rumble that sent a flutter through her. "Only when I am surrounded by wild creatures, you seem like someone who appreciates the deeper things in life." Her cheeks warmed slightly under his gaze, and she felt a sudden rush of nerves. "I guess I try to. Life is too short for shallow conversations." "Agreed," he said, the sincerity in his tone causing a ripple of tension between them. For a moment, their eyes locked, and Claire could feel the weight of unspoken possibilities hanging in the air. "I am going to grab some coffee. Would you like to join me?" Ethan offered, a slight hint of hesitation in his voice, as if he was unsure if he had misread the playful connection. Claire hesitated, her mind dancing with self-doubt. What if she was reading too much into this? "Sure, I do love that," she replied, surprised by her own eagerness. They wandered toward the cafe, the vibrant sounds of the zoo pulsating around them. As they approached the counter, Claire found herself lost in the moment, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the sweetness of the cotton candy stand nearby. Ethan ordered a double espresso, while Claire opted for a simple mocha. "2 drinks for 2 adventurers," he said, flashing her a grin as they moved to a small table outside. The sun was warm, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead. "Adventures," she echoed, playful incredulity lacing her tone. "We just met in line." "Every adventure starts with a chance encounter," he mused, leaning back in his chair with a confident ease. "It is all about perspective." Claire found herself captivated by his charm, the way he spoke with such conviction. "I suppose that is true. And what do you do when you're not philosophizing in the zoo?" "I am an investment banker," he said, his smile faltering for just a moment. "But don't he let this scare you off. I promise I am not all numbers and spreadsheets." She laughed lightly, the sound coming easier than she expected. "No, I think you've proven that already. Do you ever get tired of the corporate world?" "Sometimes," he admitted, his expression growing serious. But I've learned to find joy in the little things, like days at the zoo. How about you? What fills your time? I work in marketing, she said, a hint of pride in her voice. But I've been thinking about doing more freelance work, branching out a bit. I like that, taking risks, he mused, his eyes narrowing slightly as he studied her. Is it risky? She asked, feeling a rush of vulnerability. I mean, what if I fail? Failure is just part of the process, Ethan replied, his voice softening. It is how we grow, even when it hurts. Trust me, I've faced my share of failures. Suddenly, Claire felt a pang in her chest. What kind of failures? He chuckled softly, the sound low and intimate. Oh, let's just say I've learned a few hard lessons about trusting the wrong people and letting the wrong opportunities slip by. His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken histories. Claire sensed a depth in Ethan, a hint of pain tucked behind the confidence he wore like armor. Before she could probe further, a loud cough from a nearby parrot broke the moment. They both turned, laughter bubbling up again as they watched the colorful bird annoy a group of children. See, even the animals know how to create a scene, Ethan said, shaking his head. This could be the start of a whole new adventure. Or a comedy, Claire added, her heart racing as their eyes met. The spark was undeniable, a magnetic pull between them that made her pulse quicken. As they continued to banter, Claire's thoughts danced back to Daniel's shadow, the remnants of her past clashing with the allure of this new connection. Was she really ready to explore this chemistry? Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, jarring her back to reality. She glanced down, her smile faltering when she saw Daniel's name lighting up the screen. Sorry, she began, feeling the weight of the moment slip away. Go ahead, Ethan said, his expression shifting to one of understanding. I can wait. She hesitated, but the ghosts of her past tugged at her, urging her to respond. Just as she opened the message, she caught Ethan studying her, a hint of curiosity and concern etched on his face. Just a moment, she said, forcing herself to smile. Inside, her heart raced with the conflict of wanting to stay in this moment but feeling tethered to a past that no longer served her. But as she read the message, a wave of frustration washed over her. Daniel was checking in, asking if they could talk. Another round of hard issue wasn't he ready for? Claire started, looking up at Ethan, who was now watching her intently. It is complicated. Complicated usually means it is worth talking about, he suggested, his tone gentle but firm. If you want to share. But beneath his calm demeanor, Claire sensed a flicker of something else. Was it jealousy? Or concern that she might slip away before the day even truly began? I need to think about it, she stammered, her heart heavy with uncertainty. Ethan nodded, his expression softening but still guarded. I understand. Just know that sometimes the adventure is waiting just beyond the complicated. She looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, and wondered if she was ready for whatever lay ahead. Just as the sun broke through the clouds above, illuminating the path before them, Claire felt the pull of possibility, a thread connecting her to this stranger who seemed to ignite something in her she thought long extinguished. Maybe you'll be right, she said, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. Maybe there's time to embrace the adventure. Claire's heart raced as she wrestled with the weight of her phone in her hand, Daniel's message still glaring back at her. The urge to respond warred against the intoxicating connection she felt with Ethan. Everything okay? Ethan's voice sliced through her thoughts, a gentle lilt of concern threading through his tone. The warmth in his gaze made her pulse quicken, yet the remnants of her past clung to her like shadows. Just an old friend, she managed, trying to keep her tone light, but her heart felt heavy. It is nothing serious. And nothing serious can sometimes carry the weight of 1,000 worries, he mused, leaning forward slightly, drawing her in with his genuine interest. Claire couldn't help but admire the way he seemed to sense her unease, a quality that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in ages. Yeah, I guess, she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It is just complicated. Complicated seems to be the theme of the day, Ethan replied, a hint of a challenge in his voice. But isn't life too short to dwell on complications? Why not just enjoy the moment? His words hung in the air, their meaning crashing against Claire's internal chaos. Wasn't that what she was trying to do? But the cell phone buzzed again, a reminder of the past she was trying to escape, and it felt like a weight on her chest. What would you do in my situation? Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hung there, a thread pulling them closer. Ethan paused, his expression thoughtful. I did choose to be present. It is hard, I know, but holding on to what was might stop you from seeing what could be. She nodded, feeling the pang of truth in his words. Yet, she felt so caught between the past and the present. It is just, Daniel and I had plans, dreams, everything felt settled. Sometimes what feels settled is just an illusion, he said, his tone earnest. You deserve to find what truly makes you happy. Don't let an old dream dictate your new path. Claire's heart fluttered at his encouragement, but the shadows still loomed. What about you? Do you always have this much wisdom, or is it just today? Ethan laughed, the sound rich and low, and Claire felt it resonate within her. Only would I find myself speaking to someone who seemed worth the effort, he replied, his eyes sparkling with mischief. The banter flowed naturally between them, the weight of her past slowly lifting with every word. But Claire felt the edges of her doubts creep back in. Do you always approach strangers at the zoo for deep philosophical conversations? She teased, though a hint of genuine curiosity laced her tone. Only when they catch my eye, he shot back playfully, his gaze steady. And you, Claire, have a certain energy about you that is hard to ignore. Claire's heart thumped loudly at his compliment, the room of the calf fading around them. I might just be tired of the same old routine. Or tired of feeling invisible, he said gently, understanding flickering in his eyes. It is easy to blend into the background, especially when you recaught in your head. I didn't think I was that transparent, she replied, arching an eyebrow with mock indignation. Yet underneath her teasing, she felt a thrill at being seen so clearly. A small smile played on Ethan's lips. You'd be surprised. People often wear their emotions on their sleeves even when they think they don't. She considered his words, her heart racing with the possibility of a newfound connection. And what about you? What is the story behind your eyes? Ethan leaned back, his expression shifting to one of contemplation. It is a long story, but in short, I've spent too long chasing after things that don't matter. Now I am trying to focus on what does. His honesty struck a chord within her, and Claire wondered what stories lingered behind his confident facade. What does matter to you? She asked softly, intrigued by the depth she sensed in him. Adventure, connection, authenticity, he replied, his gaze unwavering. And finding someone who shares that journey. For a moment, Claire felt the air thicken with unspoken promises, a tension crackling between them. Just then, the calf door swung open, and a group of children burst in, their laughter shattering the intimate bubble they were in. Ethan chuckled, the moment broken yet not lost. See, adventure awaits, even if you didn't plan for it. Claire couldn't help but laugh too, the sound bubbling up as she watched the children chase after each other. I suppose it does, she agreed, but her heart remained tethered to the conversation they'd just shared. As their laughter faded, she glanced back at her phone, the buzz reminding her of the reality she had momentarily escaped. I should probably respond to Daniel, she said reluctantly, wishing she didn't have to. Only if you want to, Ethan replied, his voice steady yet soft. But don't feel obligated. This is your day, remember? Claire felt her chest tighten, the weight of expectation pressing down on her. I know, but he needs closure or something. It is just complicated. A complication seems to find us all, he murmured, his eyes narrowing slightly as he regarded her with an intensity that made her heart flutter. But sometimes, we must choose ourselves first. His words struck a chord deep within her. You make it sound so simple. Life rarely is, Ethan said, the warmth returning to his voice. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to simplify it where we can. Claire couldn't help but admire his perspective. Was she ready to take that leap? To step away from the past and embrace the unknown? What if I mess it up? She asked, feeling vulnerable. Then you try again, he replied, that gentle smile returning. You can learn to fly without a few stumbles, right? She met his gaze, the sincerity in his eyes igniting a flicker of courage within her. Maybe you rewrite, she said slowly, feeling the air shift around them. Before she could change her mind, she typed a quick reply to Daniel, letting him know she needed space. As she hit send, a wave of relief washed over her, mingled with a hint of fear. There, she said, looking back up at Ethan, who seemed to be watching her with quiet admiration. I did it. A proud smile bloomed on his face. That is a step worth celebrating. Do you always celebrate small victories with a coffee? Claire teased, although she felt a warmth spreading within her at his encouragement. Only when they involve a beautiful stranger, he replied, his eyes glinting with mischief. So, what is next on our adventure? The question hung in the air, and Claire felt a rush of excitement. How about we explore the animal exhibits? I think I owe the elephants a visit. Lead the way, my adventurous companion, he said, rising from his seat, and Claire felt the thrill of his words resonate within her. As they stepped out into the vibrant atmosphere of the zoo, the sounds of laughter and the scent of fresh popcorn filled the air. It felt like a new beginning, a chance to immerse herself in the moment. And as she walked beside Ethan, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the start of their adventure together, one that might just rewrite the narrative of her heart. With every step, Claire could feel the remnants of her past fading, replaced by the enticing promise of the unknown. The uncertainty lingered, but so did the excitement. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to embrace it all. As they strolled through the zoo, Claire felt an exhilarating mix of anticipation and vulnerability, the past tugging at her heart with every step she took beside Ethan. He walked with an ease that made her feel lighter, as if the burden she did carry were momentarily forgotten. "Did you have a favorite exhibit as a kid?" Ethan asked, glancing sideways at her as they approached the elephant enclosure. She considered his question, her heart fluttering as she recalled lazy afternoons spent here. The elephants, definitely. I loved how they seemed to understand one another. Watching them interact felt like a lesson in friendship. Ethan nodded knowingly. They were amazing creatures, strong yet gentle. I think we could all learn a thing or two from them. Claire smiled, warmed by the depth of his understanding. He sounded like a man with a profound connection to elephants. Perhaps they were my spirit animals, he teased, flashing her a grin that made her pulse quicken. Or maybe I just appreciate their complexities. As they neared the glass enclosure, Claire leaned in, captivated by the sight of the elephants splashing water on each other with their trunks. "Look at them, they were so playful." Ethan moved closer, his arm brushing against hers. "It is like they were putting on a show just for us," he said, his breath warm against her skin, sending a thrill down her spine. She turned to him, her heart racing as their eyes met. "It feels like a perfect moment." "It does." He held her gaze, the air crackling with something electric. They felt the world around them fade, the sounds of the zoo blurred into a distant hum, leaving just the two of them suspended in this intimate moment. Before she could dwell on it, a loud trumpet from one of the elephants startled her back to reality. "Wow, did you hear that?" she said, laughter bubbling up, breaking their spell. Ethan chuckled softly, the sound rich with warmth. "Yes, I did. I guess they were not shy about being the center of attention." Claire felt a sense of ease settling between them, the wall she built around her heart beginning to crumble. "And what about you? Do you enjoy being the center of attention?" Ethan smirked, his eyes dancing with mischief. "Only when I am with someone who makes it worth it." Her breath caught at his words, the sentiment sparking a warmth in her chest. "Are you flirting with me, Mr. Philosopher?" "Is it working?" he replied, his expression playful yet sincere. She laughed, a melodic sound that rang through the air. "Maybe a little, but I am still figuring you out. You could be a smooth talker who gets all the girls at the zoo. Or I could just be a guy who has really taken with the beautiful woman beside him," he countered, his gaze unwavering, and she felt her cheeks flush. The intensity of his gaze sent a rush of emotions through her: excitement, fear, and a flicker of something deeper. Did she really let herself be drawn to someone new? The ghosts of her past whispered doubts, reminding her of the times when she had felt so vulnerable, so exposed. "Let us move on," she suggested, trying to shake off the weight of her thoughts. "What is next on our adventure?" Ethan shrugged, eyes gleaming with mischief. "How about the reptiles? I hear they can be quite captivating." "Reptiles," she teased. "Is that your way of saying you think I am cold-blooded?" "Not at all," he chuckled, the warmth of his laughter easing her tension. "I just think it is fascinating how something so different can evoke such strong reactions." As they made their way toward the reptile house, Claire felt the atmosphere shift, a mix of excitement and lingering apprehension. What if she let herself get too close? What if Ethan turned out to be just another fleeting connection? "Why do you come to the zoo?" he asked, breaking the silence as they walked. "I guess it is a nostalgia thing," she admitted, her vulnerability creeping back in. "It reminds me of simpler times before." She trailed off, unsure of how to voice her lingering heartache. "Before what?" he pressed gently, his tone encouraging. "Before life got complicated," she said, feeling a knot form in her chest. "Before I got caught in a relationship that felt like a slow decline." Ethan's expression softened, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "That sounds tough. It must have taken a toll on you." Claire nodded, grateful for his empathy. "It did. I lost sight of who I was for a while." "But you're refining yourself again, aren't you? Out here, enjoying the moments you deserve?" he asked, his voice encouraging. She met his gaze, seeing sincerity reflected in his eyes. "I hope so. It is just hard to shake off the past." "You don't have to do it alone," he said, a softness enveloping his words. "If you want to talk about it, I am here." The warmth of his offer wrapped around her like a cozy blanket, and for the first time in a long while, Claire felt a flicker of hope. Thank you, Ethan. It is nice to know I am not alone in this. Of course, he replied, his smile genuine. We all navigating something. It is part of being human, right? Claire smiled back, feeling the tension ease between them. Right, so, about those reptiles. As they had entered the dimly lit reptile house, she felt the cool air wash over her, a stark contrast to the warmth outside. Creatures of all shapes and sizes slithered in their enclosures, and Ethan leaned against one of the glass cases, a playful glint in his eye. See, captivating, he said, gesturing toward a striking green snake. What do you think, beautiful or terrifying? Maybe both, Claire replied, intrigued. It is like they hold their secrets so close, just waiting for someone brave enough to find out. Sounds familiar, he mused, his gaze flickering back to her. Makes me wonder what secrets you were keeping. She felt her heart race, caught off guard by his boldness yet drawn to it. I suppose we all have our stories, some more complicated than others. Should we share secrets then? He asked, his tone teasing yet serious. It could be fun. Only if you promise to keep it between us, she replied, her pulse quickening as she toyed with the idea. I am not ready for an audience yet. Your secret is safe with me, Ethan assured her, leaning a little closer, his breath warm against her cheek. But I warn you, if you tell me a secret, I might just have to share one of my own. Her heart raced, excitement and fear mingling as she considered the weight of her past and the hope of what could be. All right, I allowed by, but here's my secret. Sometimes I feel like I am standing on the edge of a cliff, afraid to jump. Ethan's expression turned serious, his gaze penetrating as he absorbed her words. That is brave, Claire, acknowledging fear as the first step. A tension built between them, the air thickening with unspoken emotions. What about you? What is you, Cliff? He paused, his expression contemplative. Ivy spent too long chasing after success, thinking it would make me happy, but at the end of the day, it is the connections that matter. Claire felt her heart swell at his honesty, the weight of their shared vulnerability anchoring them together. So, we both stand on the edge, huh? Maybe we should jump together, he suggested, a hint of mischief in his voice. Together, she echoed, the thrill of his words igniting a spark within her. What if we fall? Then we'll all figure out how to fly, he replied, the sincerity in his eyes making her pulse quicken. The moment hung in the air, heavy with possibility, her heart racing at the thought of taking that leap with him. But just as she felt herself teetering on the edge of something profound, a loud crash pierced the intimacy of their moment. A child had knocked over a display of reptile facts nearby, laughter erupting around them. Ethan chuckled, breaking the tension. Looks like our moment is officially interrupted. Claire laughed, the sound easing the weight of her emotions. I guess the universe has a sense of timing. Or it just knows we were not quite ready for that leap, he said playfully, nudging her shoulder. But I am still game if you are. Her heart fluttered at the idea, the thrill of adventure entwined with fear of vulnerability. I am definitely game. Ethan's smile widened, and in that moment, Claire felt a surge of courage. Maybe today was the beginning of something new, a chance to rewrite her story alongside a man who understood the complexities of life. As they continued exploring the reptile house, Claire felt her spirit lift. Each shared laugh, each moment of connection was a step toward embracing her adventure. With Ethan by her side, she couldn't help but wonder if she was finally finding her way back to herself. The reptile house was dimly lit, the air saturated with an earthy smell that reminded Claire of a forest after a rain. As they wandered through the winding paths, Ethan's presence beside her felt like a warm, steady heartbeat in a world that had become a whirlwind of emotions. Do you ever think about how much we don't know about these creatures? Claire mused, peering into a tank housing a large iguana that lounged lazily on a branch. All the time, Ethan replied, leaning closer as if he were sharing a secret with her. It's fascinating how much life there is beneath the surface, isn't it? We see only what is right in front of us, but there is so much more happening below. Claire caught his gaze, and a warmth spread through her at the intimacy of their shared contemplation. Like us, she said, her voice quieter than usual. People tend to see just the surface, never perceiving the depths beneath. Exactly, he said, his tone growing serious, a hint of intensity flickering in his eyes. We all carry our stories, our struggles. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is be honest about that. Claire's heart raced, caught between the thrill of their connection and the weight of her past. She could feel Daniel's shadow lurking just beyond the edge of her consciousness, a reminder of the complications she was trying to escape. What about you? She asked cautiously, needing to divert the conversation away from her own tangled emotions. What is your story? What are you hiding beneath the surface? Ethan paused, his expression shifting as if he were measuring his words. I guess I've been hiding behind success for a long time, chasing promotions, money, thinking it would fill this void inside me, but it never did. The vulnerability in his voice stirred something deep within her. What changed for you? She prompted, her curiosity piqued. I realized it wasn't just about me, he admitted, his gaze drifting toward the iguana as if finding solace in its stillness. I wanted to connect with people, to understand their journeys, that's what matters. Claire felt a knot form in her chest, torn between admiration and the lingering fear of vulnerability. You make it sound so simple, she said, a hint of wistfulness in her tone. Here I am, still figuring it all out. It's not simple, he countered, turning to her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. But it's worth it, you just have to take that first step. Before she could respond, a loud hiss erupted from a nearby enclosure, startling them both. They turned to see a large python coiled round a branch, its scales shimmering under the dim light. Wow, look at that! Claire exclaimed, her heart racing with excitement. The momentary distraction lifted the heaviness that had settled between them. It's beautiful and terrifying, all at once. It's just like people, Ethan said, smirking. We can be a little scary but also incredible. It all depends on how you look at it. Claire laughed, the sound echoing softly through the enclosure. I guess so, but I'd rather hang out with the friendly creatures. Ethan leaned in, his voice teasing yet sincere. Good thing I am not a python then. True, she replied, feeling a warmth spread through her. But I am curious, what is something that frightens you? Honestly, he asked, his expression turning serious again. You getting hurt, letting someone in, and not knowing how it will end. Her heart sank a little at his words, a familiar pang of fear echoing in her chest. That is a valid fear. I think we've all been there, feeling exposed and vulnerable. Ethan met her gaze, the weight of unspoken emotions hanging between them. So, what do? Do you keep your guard up or take that leap? I don't know, Claire admitted, biting her lip as she thought about her own struggles. Sometimes I want to leap, but then I get terrified. I don't want to repeat past mistakes. Exactly, he said softly, his voice a gentle caress. But what if you don't? What if this time is different? The intensity of his gaze sent a thrill through her, a flutter of hope mingling with fear. Yet the wall she built around her heart felt like a fortress, impenetrable and daunting. Before she could process the whirlwind of emotions, her phone buzzed in her pocket again, a stark reminder of the reality she was trying to escape. Sorry, she began, pulling out her phone, her heart sinking as she saw Daniel's name once more. I can wait, Ethan said, his voice steady. But there was an undercurrent of tension in his tone that made her pause. Taking a breath, she glanced at the message. Just a simple check-in, but it felt like a chain wrapping tighter around her heart. It's just complicated, she said, frustration bubbling up. Complicated seems to be a recurring theme here, Ethan replied, his expression softening. But maybe you need to untangle it before it weighs you down. I know, Claire said, her voice barely above a whisper. But it's hard to let go. Maybe not letting go is the answer. Maybe it is about understanding what you need to let in, he suggested, leaning closer, his sincerity palpable. She looked up at him, caught in the warmth of his gaze, feeling the tension shift again. It was a delicate dance, this interplay of emotions, a fine line between past and present. What are you thinking? Ethan asked, his voice breaking through the haze of her thoughts. I am still figuring it out, she replied, her heart racing as their eyes locked. But being here with you feels different, it feels good. Then let us embrace that, he said, a smile breaking through the tension. Let us be present in this moment, regardless of the chaos outside. Claire nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Okay, I can do that. Great, he said, his tone lightening. Now, what do you say we check out the turtles? They were surprisingly cute. Turtles. Claire laughed, her spirits lifting. I didn't see that coming. Trust me, they were underrated, he said, gesturing for her to follow him. As they walked toward the next exhibit, she felt an ease begin to settle within her, the weight of her past slowly lifting. When they reached the turtle enclosure, Claire couldn't help but smile. They are cute, she exclaimed, watching as a small turtle poked its head out of its shell, peering curiously at them. Ethan chuckled, his eyes bright with amusement. See, I told you, they have this whole chill vibe that I admire, just taking life at their own pace. Maybe I should take notes from them, Claire said, a hint of humor in her voice. Or from the elephants, Ethan suggested, his gaze turning serious again. They embody strength and wisdom, they teach us about community and connection. True, Claire replied, her heart softening at the thought. Maybe that's what I need to focus on, building connections instead of running away. Ethan's expression shifted, a flicker of admiration crossing his face. That's brave of you to admit. Acknowledging the need for connection is the first step toward finding it. The air thickened between them with unspoken emotions, a fragile tension lingering as they shared this moment of vulnerability. Claire felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, a light piercing through the shadows of her past. Thank you for being here, she said softly, her heart swelling with gratitude. Ethan reached for her hand, his touch gentle and warm. Always, I am glad we met today. I'm too, Claire replied, feeling a surge of courage. I think I needed this someone to remind me that it is okay to be real. Just be yourself, Ethan said, his voice steady as he regarded her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. You be more than enough. Their eyes locked, the world around them fading into a soft blur as the connection between them deepened. Claire felt a rush of emotions, fear mingled with something exhilarating and new. As they stood there, hands entwined, the weight of their past lingered, but the present felt electric. Maybe this was the start of something beautiful, a chance to leap into the unknown together. And as Claire gazed into Ethan's eyes, she couldn't help but wonder if this time she would find the courage to embrace the adventure waiting just beyond the complicated,